In today's AI-powered day and age, the underlying technology is no longer something that differentiates you. Momentum is. In this conversation, Bryan Kim, a partner at a16z, breaks down what that really means and why it's key to his investments in 11 Labs, Partyful, Be Real, and the controversial Cluely. We're digging into the questions that we always ask but are hard to find the answers to. How do we build momentum? How do we separate momentum from hype? And why don't we have a super app yet? Plus, Bryan gets real about his career highlights and lowlights and advice he'd share for his younger self. I'm Taiki Chung, your host. This is Bryan Kim on New to Venture. Let's go.
This is my very first in-person podcast, Bryan.
Oh my God, I'm honored.
Being my
this is great.
First
In person is great.
Right?
It's great.
I agree.
It's fun.
Speaking of podcasts, you've been on a few amazing ones recently. We're talking TDPN, Sorcery. You're on the a16z podcast. And so you've been interviewed by some of the best in the game. What's something that you wish those hosts had asked you, but they actually didn't? Like, what is something that you've wanted to talk about that maybe you haven't had the chance to on a show?
You know, it's always a lot about how we look at venture, what we sort of think about, and, you know, the theories and our thesis. Of course, we have that. And I've been sort of going on and on about this momentum as a moat thing. But I think, you know, it's always interesting to talk about origin story. My boss, Ben Horowitz, has this good saying where, you know, when we meet entrepreneurs for the first time, when he meets entrepreneurs for the first time, one of the questions that he asks is like, where are you from? And I think that's interesting, right? Like, where are you from can be like translated into so many things depending on who's listening to it. So I thought that was an interesting origin question. I try to ask that to my founders too, more and more so, to understand motivation, understand why they do what they do, who they are, which, you know, also gives me a better chance to like connect with them at a human level.
So Bryan, where are you from?
Damn. What a great question. I'm from everywhere is sort of the question. I was born in San Diego, but grew up in Korea.
Right.
And so I have this weird otherness growing up of like, oh, are you from Korea or are you from US? And the answer is like, not really neither. I'm just like weird. The way I talk about it, my OS isn't calibrated to like an American OS, nor a Korean OS, nor is it a Korean American or OS. It's this weird combination of things. You pick and choose like what you like almost, and you construct it over time. But, you know, I think when I really think about where you're from, you know, the critical time period where I grew up in Korea and in a local school system. I didn't go to fancy international schools. It was just straight up, you know, getting beaten up by my teachers. That's normal. It's normal. It's normal in Asia. It's normal. It's normal. I tell myself it's normal. I think what it gave me is a lot of resilience and adaptability. And so when I think about who are you, I'm like, well, I'm someone who can adapt to almost any condition. I'm someone who's resilient. So the question where I'm like, oh, like, what's your, you know, fun fact about you? I'm like, well, you can drop me in the middle of the desert and probably find a way. Probably make friends with the local people and just like, you just figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, the whole thing is like, don't die, just keep going.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned that. I actually went on a 6-month-long trip last year, all through Asia. I was in Japan, Thailand, Vietnam, and my dream is to create a global venture capital firm that takes money from Asian LPs and invest in American startups. And so it was a little bit of a work trip out there.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I'd come to realize that the things that Asian venture capitalists prioritize is a little different.
They're very different.
And so do you think that you could do Korean venture capital?
You know, it's funny. There's some really big winners.
Yeah.
Like Coupang, like at some point became like $100 billion company, I think.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of really strong companies, like even, you know, the likes of Naver, which is basically Korean's answer to Google.
Yep.
Kakao Talk.
Yeah.
I think the stats is like 99% of Koreans use Kakao Talk. It's some like insane penetration.
Wow.
And on that basis, they like built everything else. So like the thing there is like, look, it's the often touted fact is like a 11th largest economy in the world. And like that's big. And you have very, very digital connected people. So there are venture scale outcomes there. So I've been, you know, interested. I meet people, I've networked there.
Yeah.
So I met a few folks and you know, it's funny. The valuation actually is on par.
Really?
With the US.
The multiples are.
Yeah. So honestly, the thing for the companies that we back, every company that we invest in, we sort of have to assume, is this a fund returner? And given our fund size, the fund returner by definition needs to be global in nature.
Yeah.
So that's something that we always think about in founders too. Like, what are your ambition level?
Yeah, I love it. And so your specialty is in the consumer space. And what I was so fascinated about in Asia, especially in China, are these super apps.
Yeah.
And so do you have any thoughts on, I guess Kakao is kind of a super app.
Kakao is definitely a super app.
Right?
Yeah, it's definitely a super app.
And so why don't we have that in America?
This is interesting. So I've been at a16z for 4 or 5 years. This is like a topic that just pops up again and again and again. I'm like, super app. I'm like, we're going to be a super app. Like, I think what's interesting is, like, if you look at the super apps that's been built, most of the time they're predicated on messaging. And I think that's sort of one theory that we went back to, which is like, messaging is it's too high of a frequency of a use case, right? It's utilitarian. And, think about your main messaging app. I don't know which one it is. Mine's today iMessage. I don't know. I opened that probably 100 times a day.
Yeah.
That gives you an insane stickiness, insane frequency to build other things on top of it. It gives you almost a permission to build other things on top of it. So if you're building a product that, I'm going to go in once a week, how are you going to build all these other things? So I think that's important. So if we believe that, then the question becomes, all right, well, can't we have that?
Yeah.
And the truth is we could, except if you think about, again, Kakao Talk, 99% penetration rate. What's WeChat in China? Probably similar, like 95, 99. Like, it's some insane level of penetration. And I was at Snap before and Snapchat before, and we studied the penetration of all these messaging apps. When it tips over to 99, I think that's when you get super app potential. Well, not even potential, but like, look, like, I own you.
Yeah, and you can start to build products.
Yeah, like I own the customers. One of my partners, Alec Rumpel, has a really funny saying where, the best business is to have hostages. They don't have customers, they have hostages. But if you think of a messaging app, it's almost that. Like, even if you don't want to use something, like, by the way, I don't want to use Kakao Talk. I don't. I really, it's clunky. I don't want to use it.
You have to.
I have to. Like, all my other, like, network back in Korea, they use it. So, like, I get pulled back in every time. And you can't say, I don't want to use it. Like, it's not up to you. You're a hostage.
Yeah. It's the same thing with the iMessage.
Absolutely.
Right?
Like, what are you going to do?
Text versus.
But I think that's, like, partially why it's hard in this ecosystem, US particularly, to build a super app, because even if you look at iMessage, that's not 99%. It's nowhere close. Why? Because Android.
Yeah.
Android is huge. They don't use iMessage. They get these very, very sad, other colored bubbles, which is interesting. Anyways, that's a theory as to why it's been harder to think about super app.
Yeah.
And the answer we got, instead of a one monolithic super app, is what I think Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook or Meta have popularized, which is like constellation. So like, it's not going to be one app to rule it all, but it's going to be constellation of apps that rule it all.
That's actually a perfect segue into talking about the different consumer products that might win in the next 5-10 years.
Awesome. We're in the age of AI, so this is a fun.
I loved ever since I heard it for the first time, which was at this Versi event that you guys had hosted. It said momentum is the moat. I think that is so clever. And so I was listening to your podcast with Molly, and you were talking about how momentum is product velocity plus distribution.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then Molly had moved on to talk about something else, but that's something that I actually want to double down on.
Oh, fantastic.
And so what does that really mean?
I have a lot of theories. And, that's my attempt at theorizing what companies are doing really well in this era. Right. And I want to sort of specify that. It's meant to be a little controversial, right? Like, people are like, oh, no, it's not. You got to build all these other things. And like, what about the traditional definition of mode and da-da-da-da?
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm just talking about this point in time in AI development. And there are a couple elements. One, I think AI is bigger than internet. So in that world, we must assume that we're very, very early, because let's assume that is bigger than internet for a hot second. How many people in the world who has smartphone use internet? 100%. 7 billion devices plus and minus.
Yep.
They use internet. That's 7 billion. What is OpenAI's, MAU, WAU? It's, I think weekly active is like sub billion. It's like 800 million or something. Okay, that's interesting, and that sort of remains still the primary consumer interface and consumer use case of AI.
Yeah.
Which remains some maybe order of magnitude, or some like little more than that, less than internet. So we're really, really, really early. We're still really, really early. So in that earliness of the primordial soup of everything popping up and everything is magic, then how do you actually think about, moat in this world? And the whole thing around like network effects, system of record, like all these things, like it's harder when it hasn't really fully been adopted. So all the things that we learned in terms of like business model and like moats and things like that, I believe we learned it during the internet era. I believe we learned it through the mobile era and the cloud era and the SaaS era. We learned it. We learned it well. We saw what businesses work. I'm like, this is great. We now understand what makes businesses work. Well, we need to sort of dial the clock back to the very early stage of everything blowing up. I'm like, how do you find what works then? Because when you think about like the earlier times, like when Google first popped up and Facebook first popped up, you can theorize all these things. I'm like, network effect, whatever. But like, if you dial the clock back, it was just, oh my God, that thing's on fire. We have never seen growth like this. Oh my God, they're shipping products so fast. What is happening? So I want to go back to that era. And that's why I say momentum is a moat. And I also want to make sure that it's differentiated by the thing about, oh, like you just need to be famous and like have marketing. I'm like, that's not it. That's part of it.
Yeah.
That's really, really hard to get.
Yeah.
That's part of it. But the other part of it is you got to ship.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is, look, you know this too. The underlying infrastructure layer, the model layer changes every month, every week. Like they're like, it all like happens all together at some points where I'm like, it's quieter. And then like video models, there are 4 different updates a week. And I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah.
So on average, my guess is that, it's every week. So then the question for apps companies, that are building on top of infrastructure, you can't build slower than them at all. It's like, the underlying sort of, I don't know why. I always think of these icebergs moving around and then like it's moving around on like a weekly basis. And, whoever's slower than week, like product per week, they try to jump to the next iceberg or whatever, ice plate, and it already moved. Now you're going to fall in, it's not gonna dig me,
Yeah.
So the way I think about it is like, you got to move faster than those plates moving around.
Yeah.
So that's why I think, look, like we're so early, AI is bigger than internet, underlying model layer moves too fast. And therefore, I believe momentum is a moat.
You mentioned the 2 key things is for the company to feel like it's on fire, not in a good way.
Yeah.
Like the world is putting it on fire because they like
not the
so
meme,
much.
not the dog meme was fire. Yeah, this is fine meme. Yeah.
And it's that combined with shipping velocity.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so when you're talking to a founder, looking at a company, how do you define a high quality fire? That's something that I've not understood. So like you mentioned it's beyond the likes and the comments and the following.
Yeah.
What defines a flame that can last?
It's funny. You got to meet the founders. Like that's important. Like we're doing this in person. In person is great. I always find great joy in making sure you meet the founders in person. I have many examples where when I led 11 labs, I flew to meet Maddie in person to get things scribbled on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And from there, you get the type of person he is. Roy's the same thing. I emailed him and Roy Liat Cluley. He's like, nah, bro, I don't want to meet you.
Yeah.
And, I followed up and said, I'm around your office. Can I come by? And that's sort of how it started. Same thing with Functionals and Slingshot. We like locked them in literally in our partner's house. And then we're like, we got to get to a deal now. You know, like it's all in person. So you get a little bit of sense of how the founder operates, what's important for them. You ask questions like, where are you from? And things like that.
Right.
So that's important to understand a motivation level. But the two other things that sort of show moatiness, if you will, momentum, is one, do they know how to get distribution? In consumer AI side, we have this funny thing saying that you can't theorize, you can only observe. So you can have all these like amazing theories of like, oh, this is what's going to happen in consumer. Like the truth is that you can't guess. It's so random. What you need to be doing is obsessively observing. And so when you say like, how do you see it? Well, the world sees it. The customer sees it first. To say, oh, like it doesn't have to be a very large number of people. I just say it needs to be some like stat sig group of people, statistically significant group of people, and that's like maybe 1,000 people, doesn't matter. And then you start seeing how they use it and how that sort of how the adoption works and how the engagement works. I'm like, well, something very, very special is happening here.
Right.
So that's one way to see it. The second way to really think about it is we try to do this, which is interesting. We try to go into the products and look at the history of like, you know, App Store updates or websites, whatever, and like try to see how often they push out products. And sometimes it's on Twitter, like, oh, like we're announcing X, whatever. And then like a week later, we're also doing this. A week later, we made patches on this. And like, and you can see the record of speed. And that's something that I personally take seriously. I won't say all of us are obsessed with that. It's like sort of what I do, where I try to understand, well, how fast are you shipping? So those are some of the ways that I try to tease out, like, is this company and product, does it have the momentum? And if it does, look, like, is it always guaranteed that it'll continue? No. But I rather believe in that continuing than like not having momentum and be like, well, you know, one day it'll happen. I'm like, well, that sounds like a riskier thing to me.
And so when consumer founders come to you and they're like, I want to build momentum. They have a great product. Maybe they have fantastic retention, which is a more classic metric that.
There's no other people that like more obsessed with retention than me. And this is like a kind of 180 for me.
Yeah.
I was the one who was most obsessed with retention. I put out all the metrics. I'm like, this is what you need. And now I'm like, actually, momentum. So.
And so when a founder asks you, like, how do we manufacture momentum? What are some first steps? Is it that high quality promo video that we've been seeing from Series and Cluely, or is it a tagline, cheat on everything? What are some first steps to actually building momentum if you don't have the story like Roy has about getting kicked out of Columbia?
The word that you use, manufacturing momentum, I have a problem with, because I don't think it's manufacture. You're not saying like, I'm going to make momentum, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. And like, you know, it's not manufactured. A lot of times it's a result. Momentum is more of a result that we observe than like, you know, you try to manufacture. And sometimes you can. But I think it manifests itself in certain ways where, one, the product needs to be good. Product needs to be very good. Note that I didn't say product needs to be perfect. Note that I didn't say product needs to be amazing even. Product needs to be very good and very innovative, thoughtful, different. So I'll give you two examples for that. Clearly, a translucent overlay on a website, that's not that hard to do. Snapchat, disappearing photos. You think that's hard to do? That's not the point. Be real. It stitches two back and forth front. That's been done before too, by the way. Front back picture, I think. It's not hard. It's different and it's unique in that point in time. But that must be there. When Lovable came up, prompt to app, was that the only place you can do it? No. You can do it in, you know, bolt.new. Could have done it in Replit.
Yeah.
It's not the only place. Product needs to be great. Good, great. What? But it doesn't need to be, oh, holy shit, I've never encountered something like this. Like, that's not the prerequisite, actually. The second thing that I think it happens is very oftentimes you can't tell what users will like. We can theorize. We can absolutely theorize. We theorize all day long. But at the end of the day, you have to have the humility in this world and B2C side of things where I just don't know how people use it. And so you have to launch first and you have to get into people's hand. Once you get into people's hand, you move very quickly to continue to add different elements. So I think that's like what I think of momentum. And the third is, look, like the funny thing is, if a tree fell in the middle of the forest and you didn't hear it, did it actually fall? That matters.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I have a great product nobody knows. Okay. That doesn't exist,
Right.
So then the best founders that I know marry this sort of, let's launch, let's get in, they have great product. They got into people's hands and say like, okay, now what? I got to make sure people know about this. So let's actually track back one of the examples of Cluely. They launched Interview Coder. Very, very viral. Best use case, well, cheat on Interview Coder. Okay, that was ahead of its time because I think Meta just came up with an announcement that they allow all these things. So the future that he was talking about was a few weeks early. Okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like crazy in the future. It was like a few weeks early. Yeah. And people just got all up in arms with like pitchforks. But that's that's what even seeing the future a few weeks in advance, that's what it does to people. So anyways, that was an existing product that did well, that the founder saw, oh, people like this thing. I wonder what else I can do with that. And then build Cluely on top of sort of with the Interview Coder. And oh, okay, this is working. This is great. All right, let's add distribution to it. Like, how do I do it? You know what? I'm going to spend a lot of money doing this like crazy high def video, which again, if you think about it, he's probably shown the way to a lot of founders. See, these are all really unique.
Yeah.
I'll take another example at 11 Labs, like going back 2.5, 3 years ago. When that launched, it was very unique. It was a way to copy your voice. I can actually get your voice and copy it. And there were competitors. And so when we were talking to 11 Labs, we were like, oh, this is interesting. But the instant voice clone product that they had, what we realized that it was 10x cheaper and about not even 10x, 100x faster to develop it. The other companies, you need to send in your voice sample, wait 3-4 days, you get it back, you pay $100 or $200, and then you got it. It's a magical product. Like, you have your voice clone. That's incredible. But 11 was doing it like 10x cheaper price, and they did it in like few minutes. That is a way superior product. And when we met the founder, it was very clear that Peter and Maddie were very determined folks that were building for the future of audio AI. And they were shipping very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And you could see that in revenue. You can see that in product, and all that came together. And frankly, they're based in UK. So, instead of thinking, oh, we must find the Silicon Valley, nature, no, the thing's working. The people have spoken to some extent, and it is our job to work with the best founders in the world. And it is my job to show up wherever they are. Could be Hawaii, which has happened. It could be UK, which has happened. It could be France, which has happened.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where. Momentum as a mode actually translate into our job too, in my mind. I try to be first.
Yeah.
First to speed, first to conviction, first to meeting them, first to XYZ.
Yeah.
Am I always that? No, but I try. And so I think that cycle matters.
I love that. I'm having such a great time. Okay, so what I think you touched upon, which is super important and very topical in the VC world, is the difference between momentum and hype, right? The difference between momentum and noise.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that got me thinking, you like to invest at this stage called traction seed, arguably Series A.
Yep.
But let's say, along the stack of pre-seed, seed, traction seed, Series A, and growth, does momentum look very different at all of these stages?
Yeah, I think the definition looks different, right? You always have to look at, some of the comps in the space or whatever, and what stands out, right? But I also think it's important to know, I guess, your zone of competence.
Right.
Like I've sort of figured that out
Yeah.
the hard way, where like what is my zone of competence? You know, I mean that in like operating world too, like
Oh, okay.
because I used to be at Snap. I joined fairly early as one of the first like 100-ish employees, and then helped grow that company of 4,000 people to $1 billion from zero revenue. Like that was a space that I was in, but 100 people, that's not small, right? And then I went to an earlier stage startup to be the C-suite, like CFO of a 20-person company, and eventually grew that to 150, whatever. But I realized that is not my zone of competence. It's just not. When we're trying to figure out PMF, like banging the head against the wall with the founders, that's like so much respect. Very, very inspired by that. But I'm not that good at that. Like, I just know now. The same lesson carried over to investing. Look, like, do I want to find the best founders at the infancy stage? Like, I have an idea. I'm like, you're special.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you some amazing, like, small, like, dollar at some small, post money and going to ride the wave. Mm-hmm. I wish I can do that. But that's just not my zone of competence. Like, my zone of competence, well, like, I still like numbers. I unfortunately have a decade of banking experience. I used to be a CFO. Like, you can't change the past, right? Like, I like numbers. I don't need a lot of numbers. I just need a stat-sig number. Yeah, that's not that high. It really isn't that high. So that's where I have decided that my zone of competence is when the stat-sig number starts to show up. I'm like, like what's that? And most people who like number, they need to have a lot of numbers. I'm like, well, like show me the P&L, show me like quarterly, monthly, whatever. Like I don't need that, because when I ran gross at Snap, I had to like deconstruct large numbers all the way back to small numbers to see like, like what is this inkling thing? And that's what I understood, to like, like I just need this inkling to understand if it has a potential to be something great. And so that's my zone of competence, which is why I focus on what I call traction seeds or A's. And like these days, it's so, that difference is so small. Where again, speed matters. Speed and conviction matter. And like, and then you just got to sort of decide, like, is this what you like?
We started this conversation talking about origin stories.
Yes.
And we kind of went back to it with that last prompt, which was talking about your time at Bungalow, some time in banking.
Oh, God. Yeah. A lot of PTSD there. When you're like, like, what are you made of? I'm like, I worked at a bank for 10 years. Straight up from.
But you were also one of the early employees of Snap, and now you're investing in the best people in the world.
I am very lucky to work with a founder that I work with.
I want to stay along this line of origin stories.
Yeah, let's do it.
And talk about highlights and lowlights in your storied career thus far. You've done such amazing things in the startup world and beyond. When I say the word highlights, what's the first thing that pops into your mind?
Oh my God. Figma went public last week. I tweeted this, and it's not a hyperbole. Like, I just talking about it now, like I'm tearing up. That video clip of New York Stock Exchange and everyone chanting like Figma.
Yeah.
I know what that feels like. Like, I'm genuinely tearing up. Like, it's so special. It's so, all the people who are there who worked so hard through failed acquisition, through assault of AI, through long product development cycles early on. That's not easy. That's the Figma folks there must be incredibly tight. Yeah, they must be incredibly tight. I have zero doubt. You're zero doubt they're incredibly tight. Yeah. And the highlight to me was similarly at Snap, when Snap was not a normal journey, right? Like, Facebook tried to copy it like so many times, eventually succeeding. And, we went public, and, that was a hard time, that was a really fun time, but like a lot of pressure. Of course, yeah. And I remember very specifically, there was a time where growth wasn't doing all that great. And I ran gross, and I joked that like I didn't run gross, I ran defense. I ran the dark magic of defense, but that makes you understand growth at a more fundamental level, because like you need to understand why, like how to keep it alive. Right. So anyways, like it was not the most fun times. We're having like weekly all hands. We're like, if we're going to get back, it's going to be good. All the engineers are asking like, what the hell is happening?
Yeah.
None of us left. None of the great employees, none of the friends that I had the joy of working with, we all were angry. And you know, say what you will, like everyone's like, oh, like a stupid product, this is sexting up, disappearing messages. Like, I'm sorry, I love the product. I think it means something very special. I think it means something very unique to emulate real life conversation and digital mobile element. That meant something to me. So the fact that all of us banded together in the time, like in difficulties, and said, nah, we're pissed. We're pissed. We deserve to exist. We deserve to do well. We deserve to continue to serve the, you know, people that we serve.
Yeah.
And we just, I don't think I ever worked harder in my life. And that is, I don't think you can, I think that's what made me tear up looking at like Figma thing. Cause like, it's just all blood, sweat and tears. Like, I know that there's no bigger joy than that. So that's what I would say operating highlight. Look, the investing highlights is actually more mundane. It is a weekly or monthly calls with some of my founders. Yeah. Like I genuinely, it's funny. There are times where I'm like, oh, like life's hard. It's so busy. There's so many things, so many meetings, and then a monthly catch up with some of my companies pop up in my in the inbox. I'm like, all right, cool. Like, you know, and by the time I'm done, I'm just like, this is it. This is why we do it. That's special, I think. And like, you know, it's funny in a way that it's not about the end result. It's the journey that you get to take with these amazing founders. And I think that's the highlights, which, you know, it's good because it comes in higher frequency. Yeah, it comes in higher frequencies. Good. Yeah, it's good.
Also, the more you invest, the more founders you have.
This is true. This is true.
You know, what you said really resonated with me too. My very first job, I was working at a late stage biotech company, an office of the CEO sort of position. And while I was there, they went public. And I remember
big day.
It was the person that I sat next to, the one that I asked questions to all day, was in New York City ringing the bell at the New York Stock Exchange. And the whole company was in the cafeteria and celebrating and eating pizza.
Oh, I remember.
And it was that moment where I'd realized I wanted to do venture.
Yep.
Because I want to do that for other companies. And I wanted to be part of that process. We did talk about highlights. On the opposite of that is lowlights, though. And so when I say the word lowlights, is there a moment that comes to mind?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a very distinct lowlight. Bungalow was is a co-living product. You the mission is amazing. Is to, you know, obviously home prices continue to go up, as we all know, much more relative to like average income growth and everything, especially when you think about these coastal cities that everyone wants to go for career opportunities. It's impossible. Like New York, I gotta find a studio. Yeah, exactly. Yep. San Francisco, all these places. So the solution was, okay, we're not building as quickly enough to accommodate all the newcomers into this thing. So we must get the existing inventory and, you know, co-live with other people. It's great, works out. The rent on average is much lower and everything's good. Now layer that on with plague. A couple of things happen. Jeez. One, you don't want to live with other people. That is not a thing. So the entire premise goes out the window. Two, expensive coastal cities. Remember what happened in New York? Like I still remember very well that I think it was a Bumble ad where it was in a building during like COVID and said like, we know you're a real New Yorker if you're seeing this, or some such thing. Yeah, because like they're there. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, that's what happened. So these two things made it really difficult. And I remember having to let go 50 people in one day.
Oh my gosh!
And I don't think I slept. I think I was not well. I'm not going to put out all the biological things happened to me, but like it was not good. That was an incredibly difficult day, and I don't yeah, I don't ever want to get there again.
Yeah. They say the hardest part of being an executive is firing people.
It really,
I mean,
and imagine during COVID,
oh my God.
50 people back to back to back to
Yeah.
back to back. And it's
Wow.
a lot of the people that I hired, and it was hard.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard.
Bryan, I'm having such a great time.
Yeah.
But I'm so
great.
sad that we're nearing our end here. I ask every guest 3 questions to end the show.
Oh.
And so these are a little bit tougher, so I'll give you some time to think.
All
But
right,
Bryan, are you ready?
Ready.
Okay. So the show is called New to Venture. And so in the spirit of being new to venture, if you were to write a letter to your past self, right as you were starting in this hectic, chaotic world that is startups and venture, what would you write about? Not to the general public, but to yourself. What would you write to yourself?
One is that very early on in venture, it was hard. I was used to managing, many people, building teams, like operating, etc. And all of a sudden I found myself like collecting data to put it in a metric dashboard so I can one day make a smart investment that, I was spreading, Excel sheets, like doing models, looking at P&L, and it actually really took me back to like first few years of banking.
Yeah.
And in my head, I was like, oh shit, I just regressed 2 decades in my career. And that was hard. That was hard. And I think what got me through it was, and I wish I would write this so then I don't like suffer the first few months with that. But look, like you're new to this job that I am so privileged and happy to have now. You don't know shit. You don't. Like you're an operator. You've been an operator and like you know how the high growth companies work, but you don't know shit. And some of your colleagues, even if they're 10 years younger, 20 years younger than you, like they have done it longer than you. So shut up. And that would be what I tell my mind, to like, shut up, just quiet down, shut up, do the work.
Yeah.
And learn. You're a beginner. You don't know anything.
Yeah.
So be humble, just do everything, soak it up, and know that you don't know anything.
Yeah.
So I think I would try to write that such that I don't stress myself too much of like, oh my God, like I don't know anything. Like I should be doing more XYZ. I'm like, no, bro, like just learn.
Yeah.
Good. And I'm still very much learning. I'm like 5 years into it, and my colleagues are some of the best investors in the world. And whenever I hear them, like this is gold.
Yeah.
That's really good. The second, which actually kind of goes against what I just said. my colleagues are some of the smartest people in the world.
Yeah.
The thing that I would also write to me is like, if you think you know something, have conviction, and don't Asian. Let's go back to being Asian. We grow up to be more deferential to authorities, and that's a product of being beaten by your teachers. But you grow to be more deferential, and I've sort of learned that, look, if you think you know something, and if you think you've done the work, and if you think you met the founder, you think you know in your heart of heart that they're special, even if all your amazing, partners are like, this is not it, this ain't it. Have conviction. That is why you are at the table. Remember the White Lotus, the last season? I'm just happy to be at the table. I don't know if you watched White Lotus, but like that's the thing. Like it's funny. I actually took a lot from that, where it's like, oh, like I'm happy you have this. I'm happy you have this. I'm just happy to be at the table. Yeah. I'm just happy to be at the table with my partners. It's great. I'm just happy to be at the table with my founders. But as you continue to do the work, if you showed up, if you did the work, and if you have conviction, also kind of trust your gut. Like just make the move. Yeah. And just do the thing. So those are the 2 things I would tell myself.
I freaking love it. This is motivational. That's my biggest struggle as an early investor, is that there's so many people that I look up to in the industry, and I take what they say as gospel, because they
say never meet your heroes.
Yeah, maybe. Can't be doing this podcast. Come on, it's not a good use of my time. But That's a lovely answer. And there's so many key takeaways from that. The next two questions. These are
Yeah.
maybe a little bit more
Oh, that
fast.
was part
No,
one of
that
the
was
question.
just three
Okay.
questions. Three questions. Shout out another VC in the ecosystem that you think's been absolutely killing the game, maybe wrote a great article, or someone that's just been along with you for the journey.
That's such a great question. That's a hard question.
Yeah.
Because you got to like shout out your competitor to some
Shout
extent.
out Mark or Ben.
You know, because it's similar to like how you collect your OS, how I collected my OS. It's not just like one thing. I'm like, oh my God, that's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
When I made, and this is not the first controversial investments I make, when I make controversial investments, some of my partners internally, Chris Dixon in particular, has said this, where run into the fire, not away. And that like signals everything that we do here at a16z, and I take that to heart. It's so inspiring, and it feels good to be at a firm that reinforces that. So like that, and he's obviously one of the best investors in the world.
Yeah.
So easy answer there, especially internally. The other person that I really admire is actually a competitor at Excel, Sonali De Riker. She's in London office. We've been on boards together, and she somehow marries like a very thoughtful and direct approach with founders that are hard to say with the warmth and sort of care. And I just like watch her operate. I'm like, this, like one day I'll be like that. And you know, she also embodies a thing where like she just shows up everywhere. I'm like, oh, like she's there. Like it's great.
Yeah.
The last part I would say is like, I think this pertains to the world of AI that we live in. Some of the legends that I look up to, I won't name names, but like some of the legends, legends in venture.
Yeah.
I know for a fact that they're throwing the same damn event as I am. They're pounding the same pavement that I am.
Yeah.
They're meeting the same people as I am. And that's inspirational.
Yeah.
They don't need to work.
For the love of the game.
Perfectly said. Love of the game.
Yeah.
And
to be at the table.
Be at the table, run the table, but they love of the game, and I have so much respect for that.
Yeah.
The fact that they are playing the way that we all play, pounding the pavement, showing up, hustling, genuinely hustling.
Yeah.
That gives me a lot of joy to be part of this.
Yeah.
Part of this industry.
Yeah.
Where the love of the game trumps everything. And it's such a privilege to be operating and like sort of working in the industry at this time with a set of contemporaries that I look up to and I get to compete with and I get to work with.
Yeah, I like how the first one was Chris, who encourages you, pushes you forward. Yeah. The other one is someone who can navigate really tough conversations.
Incredible.
And the last ones are just people that...
These are legends, dude. Like they're just like in a random like conference room, like on a panel with me. I'm like, why are you here? Well, I know why I'm here, but why are you here? It's great.
Last question. Okay.
Yes.
Last one, I promise. It's to shout out a thesis that you're excited about, or maybe a founding team that you've enjoyed working with.
Look, I derive so much joy working with all my founders. Particularly though, what I have enjoyed is how Matty at 11 Labs have developed, and it's just funny, it's patronizing to say grown, because I am nowhere at his level even, but he sort of started, he and Peter, childhood friends, such amazing aura together. It's so funny. They built this thing, 11 Labs, and it was early on, and people still ask, like, what's the moat? I'm like, they move faster. It's like the leader. I don't know. It's momentum, actually. But the reason why I think I have so much joy in that is twofold. One is rate of growth, where he grew from this, like, initially when we backed 11 Labs, it was more of a consumer product. It was a hobbyist product. And it became this, like, he learned how to sell into enterprise. He wanted to, and he like actually kind of pioneered that motion. in my mind. And watching him do that, just in awe. And I'll give you one fun example. This is my favorite example. So after the deal, I flew to London to have dinner with him. So we're having dinner. It's 2.5 hours. It's great. It's great to work with you. All the stories. Dinner ended, and we're like, "Oh, Matty, it was so great to hang. Like, see you next time." And he goes like, "Pause. I need to check something." I'm like, "Okay." He pulls out a piece of paper from his pocket, and he goes like, "Okay, talk about this. Okay, I have 6 more questions. I have 6 more topics. Can we go through the lightning round?" That's that example is just, it's so telling. Like, what kind of person, what kind of leader. He's now on the board of Klarna. Like, I was like seeing him grow. I'm like, oh my God, what a special experience. And the second thing is the team is stacked with amazing people. I think one of the first company that I actually know like 30, 40 people personally.
Wow.
I help hire some of them. Like, and I know them. Like, they're in my DMs. Like, I talk to them a lot. And I know the caliber, quality, and the type of people they are is just so high.
Yeah.
And again, like, future will say what the company is, etc., and they will continue to develop it. But it's just been so incredible to work with an entire team. And I think that's rare. I think that's really rare.
Yeah.
To like know 30, 40 people in one of our companies and like actually talk to them and work with them all the time.
Yeah. A bunch of killers. And so,
oh yeah, kind killers.
Those are the scariest ones.
Yeah, they'll look at you while they do it. It's they're kind killers.
You heard it here first. If they ever have a job opening, you better apply.
Oh yeah, 1,000.
Bunch of great people.
Yeah. Great
Bryan,
people.
this has been so much fun.
This was so much
I gotta
fun.
have you on for a part 2. There's so many things that we
didn't even cover half of it.
Just because I was having so much fun, I kind of took us off.
This was good.
But Bryan, this was awesome.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Of course, anytime.